There are things that should never be broken. There are souls that never want to be forgotten. And there are children that never walk alone. The narrator continues in a monotone, full of doubt. I am Marianne. And if you are listening to this story, maybe you, like me, dreamed of a complete family. A cozy home with the sound of children's footsteps running. But no one told me that my prayers would sometimes be answered in very different way. The frame is black. A handwritten sentence slowly appears on the dark background. Mommy, I'm not walking alone, am I? Marian's voice choked up. It took me 15 years to have a child. But when the child entered the house, I had no idea it brought with it another soul. It started with little things. Toys falling from the upstairs when no one was there. Giggles coming from the empty room. And one night while I was sleeping, someone touched in my leg. But Dave, my husband, was still sleeping soundly beside me. I thought it was crazy. But then my husband saw it too. A small shadow standing in the corner of the room, staring at my daughter's crib. The opening climax, the voice is rushing, the background music starts to vibrate. And when discovered that the baby I loved had a twin sister, a soul abandoned in the dark, everything was too late. Hindi ampon galing sa bahay ampunan, ye story may never want me experience. We live in a small town where the night is so quiet you can hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. And my name is Marian. 35 years old. Dave's wife, the only man who made me believe in love. But that same love once made me feel unworthy. A small house in the suburbs, autumn, leaves falling sparsely on the porch. Dave and Marian drank tea together, both silent, eyes heavy. 15 years together, but have never called him the father of any of our children. Because I can't have children. I have something called POS, polycystic ovary syndrome. A disease that silently took away my dream of being a mother. Month, year, hope. Marian in the bathroom, tremblingly holding a pregnancy test. Her hand was wet, her heartbeat was loud. One line. She collapsed to the floor. Marian's voice almost a whisper. I can't remember how many times I tried. Some months up to 3 sticks. Some nights, I lay awake, praying that if something was listening, let me be a mother. Just once a flashback, fairy tale glow, Marian ampersand Dave's wedding. The bride smiles brightly, Dave's eyes are affectionate. The scene changes to them in the hospital, Marian crying as the doctor shakes his head. Dave hugs her tightly. Dave never blamed me. On the contrary, he held my hand every time I failed, cooked when didn't want to get out of bed. But love, no matter how great, can fill the emptiness here. She places her hand on her belly. Marian in the local church. A traditional ritual, the mother prays, lights candles, scatters rice. I once went to an old church where people believed that if you pray with all your heart, the baby will come. I brought faith and fear. But the candles went out faster than thought. Maybe God didn't hear me. Or maybe another force heard first. Dave stood at the door of the room, watching Marian lie the bed. He walked over, gently wiping her tears. Dave, warm, gentle voice, direct dialogue. Marian, You're not alone. If God doesn't give us the baby, then we'll find it. Somewhere there's a soul waiting to be loved. Marian looked up at Dave, her eyes flashing with the first fragile light in years. I don't know that spirit. Is it the light? Or is it the darkness that took the form of the child I once wished for? After so many years of longing, we finally dared to speak to each other about two words: adoption. It's not a surrender, but the only way to keep an heart from dying every day. Marian and Dave sat across from the adoption agency staff. The room was dimly lit, many paper documents were presented. The camera zoomed in on Marian's tense face, her hand tightly holding Dave's. Marian's voice continued. But America is not easy for dreams. Strict laws, hundreds of questions, psychological evaluations, financial checks. Each piece of paper seemed to be examining the love we had for a child we had never met. Marian and Dave visited many facilities. Each place was a disappointment. Either the child was too old, or was in treatment, or not yet eligible. Marian, speaking directly, eyes tired. It seems the child for me hasn't arrived yet. A gloomy afternoon. Marian and Dave arrive at the last small center. The space is quiet, a little cold. Footsteps echo in the hallway. And then the place where we had no expectations. It is the place where fate has silently arranged. The camera is from behind Marian. She stops when she sees a little girl sitting alone playing in the corner of the room. The girl turns her head, golden hair, smooth white skin, clear eyes but cold. Very cold. Marian's voice seems to choke up. I don't know why. But at that moment, I was sure this is my child. The social worker walks over, Dorothy, a middle-aged Filipino woman, her eyes kind but sad. She picks up the baby and holds it towards Marian. Close up, Dorothy's hands tremble slightly as she hands the baby to Marian. A strange silence covers the frame. Marian's voice whispering. She looked at me for a long time, as if she wanted to say something. But then she just said quietly, her name is Heaven. But no one knows her last name. Marian carried Heaven to the car. Dave smiled, but the camera panned to Dorothy's face, cold, distant. She stood alone in the hallway, clutching the old, crumpled photograph. At that time, I didn't notice. But that look wasn't the look of someone giving, but of someone parting with fear. Marian and Dave took Heaven home. They shopped, prepared their own room. The atmosphere was brighter. Marian smiled brightly. But the background music began to ripple, slightly off. I thought everything was perfect. I thought this baby was a miracle. But the first night with Heaven, I saw she wasn't alone. Marian woke up in her room. Moonlight shone on Heaven's crib. The baby was still lying there but staring at the dark corner at the window. Marian, speaking directly, trembling. What are you looking at? Heaven did not answer. But the baby's lips smiled slightly. Softly. Strangely. Not like newborn baby. Not like an angel. At first it was just little things. A toy that was no longer in its place. Nightlight that turned on itself in the middle of the night. Or a door that opened and then closed. Even though there was no way. I thought, I must be tired. I imagined it. But no. Marian was folding clothes in her room. Behind her was Heaven, playing on the carpet. The camera panned, a toy suddenly rolled out of the room. No one touched it. Marian turned her head, nothing. But Heaven was giggling. Alone. The voice gradually became broken. I started to fear the night. Afraid to turn off the light. Because every time darkness fell, I could hear it. Footsteps, small, quick, like child's running down the hallway. Marian woke up in the middle of the night. She lay on her side, her back to Dave. The cold wind blew across her legs. And then, distinct feeling, something touched her foot. Marian, direct voice, whispering in panic. Dave. You. I'm cold. Is that you? Camera pans slowly. Dave is fast asleep, facing the wall. Not moving. Marian's voice, genuine fear. If it's not you, then who? The next morning, Marian tells Dave. He's worried but tries to stay calm. Dave, direct voice. Maybe I'm just stressed. Being a first-time mom, who wouldn't be stressed? I must have just dreamed it. The background music starts to get intense, faster, a little distorted. Marian stands in the living room, toys scattered on the floor. Heaven is napping. But there are footsteps running upstairs very clearly. No one else is home. Marian whispering. Dave, are you coming home early? No answer. Marian, shaking, holds a fruit knife. Walks upstairs. The camera follows her, as if someone is watching her from afar. I feel like I'm being watched. In my own home. It feels suffocating. Heavy. And cold, like something that doesn't belong here is living with us. Climax. Marian wakes up in the middle of the night. Dave is still asleep. The bedside lamp is flickering. She hears a soft squeak, turns her head to the door. There's a shadow of a baby moving through the hallway. Marian whispers breathlessly. Heaven. She rushes out. Heaven is still sleeping soundly in the crib. She turns back to the hallway. The shadow of the baby is gone. The next morning, Marian tells Dave. The atmosphere is tense. Dave began to waver. Dave, low voice, a little scared. Are you sure it's not a dream? You know, last night I saw. There was a small shadow standing right in front of our door. But when it turned on the light, it disappeared. I should be relieved that you finally saw. But no. Just feel more scared. Because that means it's not just in my head. It's real. And it's here. I used to think the scariest thing was not being able to be a mother. But I was wrong. There is something scarier. Is being a mother to a child and you don't know who it is. Marian is cleaning the house on a rainy afternoon. The doorbell rings. The camera slowly moves towards the door. She opens it. Dorothy, the social worker who gave Heaven to them, stands there, her eyes heavy. Dorothy, speaking directly, her voice trembling slightly. I'm sorry for coming so suddenly. But I can't keep quiet anymore. The scene shifts inside. Dorothy sits at the dining table, her hands clasped together, her face downcast. Marian and Dave face each other. The atmosphere is tense as a string. The camera pans slowly, blue. I sensed something was very wrong. Before Dorothy opened her mouth. Dorothy, sighs, voice choked. Heaven wasn't the only child born that day. She had a twin sister. Dave, direct, stunned. LA, didn't you say anything? This wasn't in the records. Dorothy. Because my family hid it. They believed the other baby was a bad omen. She didn't see Ray when she was born. Her eyes were wide open, looking straight at the doctor. A week later, she died suddenly. No cause. No explanation. Flashback, poor countryside in the Philippines. Old midwife recounts the legend, whispers, flickering fire. The words echo in the distant echo. If one of the twins dies, its soul will not be released. It will follow the living one until it is returned as the only child. Dorothy continued, eyes red. I brought Heaven to the orphanage, not to abandon her, but to separate her sister's soul. But it seems I was too late. Scene change, Marian carries Heaven up the stairs. The atmosphere is heavy. The area outside is dark, thunder and lightning crackle across the area. The camera slows down Marian's steps. Dave is downstairs. Marian's voice haunting. When step onto the seventh step, I clearly felt a small hand pushing me from behind. Climax scene, Marian slips, falls backwards, holding Heaven in her arms. She screams in despair. Dave, save me. Camera shakes, shifts to Dave's ear as he rushes over, panicking. Marian lies at the foot of the stairs, bleeding from her head. Heaven cries out. Narrator, slow, melancholy. I survived, but from then on, knew that child didn't just want to be loved. It wanted to come back. To come back as the only child. After all, I understand being a mother is not just about loving. It's also about knowing when to let go. To protect the people you love. Dave helped Marian sit in the living room, her hands still bandaged after the fall. Dorothy sat silently on the opposite side. Heaven was sleeping on the sofa, looking very innocent. Dave spoke directly, choked up. If we continue, we might lose you. Or all three of us. Dorothy nodded slightly. Only when that soul leaves Heaven will the loop end. But you guys have to bring Heaven back to where it started. Emotional climax scene. Marian stood in front of the gate of the old orphanage, holding Heaven in her arms. She sobbed, stroked the girl's hair, and kissed her forehead lightly. Baby Heaven smiled innocently, not understanding what was going on. Marian, direct voice, choked. You are the miracle I once had. But if you can't have normal life, then we'll be the one to free you. Even if it tears my heart apart. Camera closes in on Marian's hand, letting go of Heaven, slowly retreating. Dorothy steps forward, hugging the child. Marian's voice whispers. I left my whole heart behind that gate. Fast forward scene, a few months later. Marian and Dave return to normal life. But they still live slowly, empty. One morning, Marian faints in the kitchen. Dave panics. Clinic. Ultrasound machine. The doctor turns to smile lightly. Congratulations. You're pregnant. Naturally. No intervention. The fetal heartbeat is very clear. Marian, gentle, deep. After the storm, sometimes real miracles happen. No magic. No curse. Just timing. 5 years later. A quiet afternoon. Marian is sitting on the bed reading a story to her little son, who is obediently leaning his head against her. Dave is out in the yard mowing the lawn. The house looks cozy, peaceful. Marian, the voice slowly sinks, doubtful. Every time read a story to my son, I still see door. The door always keep closed. But tonight it's open. The camera pans slowly, closes in on the dark crack of the door. And for a split second, a familiar pair of eyes flash. Heaven's gaze. Not smiling. Not sad. Just waiting. There are souls that don't go anywhere. They're just waiting for someone to open the door.